Doctor Kakashi, this is like French. Yeah, I'm not French, so can't speak it. But I got the jacket though. Been a while since I wear the jacket in the video. I mean, granted, this isn't a Negan spin-off, but let's just get to the video, can we? Go on, Daryl. Lucille wants to hear you sing.
The filming Daniel.
You know what, my baby? I'm afraid you're gonna have to sit this one out here. Put this there. There you go. Nice and comfortable, Lucille. My girl Lucille loves a good show. Here we go with the video. Yeah, I know. Good Negan impression, right? Hey guys, it's Daniel here, back with a new review, and this time I'm here today to review the second spin-off to The Walking Dead that came out after it ended. So I'm not talking about what Fear the Walking Dead: The World Beyond or Tales. This is the one focusing on a OG Walking Dead character after the main show ended. And this one, it takes place in kind of an unusual place that The Walking Dead has taken place in, because it hasn't done it before, but now we are going world tour with our good boy Daryl as he goes to France. So today, I'm here today to review that spin-off series known as The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon. So The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon basically follows, well, Daryl Dixon as he somehow, somewhere, yet just doesn't know how, makes his way to France. Yep, Daryl is in France and he has no idea why. And he travels through France trying to find a way to get back to the US until he comes across a group of nuns led by a woman named Isabel. And Isabel introduces Daryl to a kid by the name of Laurent, who they believe is the one that can bring balance to France in this dark times. So Daryl is given the Last of Us treatment of taking this young kid towards a place called the Nest, all while enemies in France are tracking them down. So, I will admit, out of all the spin-offs that was announced before The Walking Dead ended that was coming out, this one was the one that I was kind of the least expecting of to be that amazing. I mean, I thought it'd be okay, but I didn't think it would be as amazing. Why? Well, I feel like the concept of Daryl ending up in France and him having to speak to French people sounded a little bit, well, silly. And also, like, the whole images, like, of him, like, appearing in France on an upside-down boat, and the synopsis of Daryl questioning whether or not he belongs in France or he belongs back home also seemed a little bit out of character, because I thought Daryl would be willing to stay in the US because he cares so much for Judith, RJ, and Carol. So this one had a bit of, like, mixed thoughts amongst some people, but I was still pretty excited to see it. And I have to say, I think that this show is better than Dead City. I already enjoyed Dead City, but this one was really good. It was definitely way better than I was expecting. So what are the things that I liked about The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon? Well, the biggest thing that I absolutely loved in the show was the characters and the performances. Especially our good boy Norman Reedus as Daryl Dixon himself. this has got to be one of the best seasons in the Walking Dead franchise for the character of Daryl. Because think about like a bunch of the character development they give Daryl in this season, okay? He has to meet up with new people, he bonds with Laurent, the kid, he may or may not have a thing going with Isabel, and he has to be a leader in some occasions as he has to make decisions, kind of like what he learned from Rick or some other leaders in the Walking Dead franchise. He definitely talks a lot more in this season, like he has a lot more dialogue, at least from what I've heard from critics saying that he has had a lot more dialogue in this season, because he definitely has a lot of good things to say and some like lessons to teach the other characters in terms of like realism, but also how to stay alive and also not give up. I think that Daryl has definitely had a great character development in this season. It's definitely a new kind of development for Daryl, and Norman Reedus just... he has got to be one of the most honourable Walking Dead cast members ever, because think about like how long he's been in the franchise. He's been in the franchise for about nearly 14 years now, or at least 13 years when this season came out, but he's been a while and has been probably in the most episodes. I don't think anybody could do Daryl justice besides him. He is Daryl and he's just amazing, and I salute you, Norman. Now, as for the new characters, most of them I think were really good and came off as really good company. I really like the character of Isabel. She's a very intriguing, like, secondary protagonist with a very, like, interesting backstory, some great character development, nice behaviour because she is a very kind woman, even though we're in the middle of like a apocalyptic catastrophe. And you can tell that she really does care about Laurent and what's the best for him, especially when the backstory comes around, and wow, that backstory with her is just nuts, man. And I ate up a lot of the scenes she shared with Daryl. I mean, it was cute, it was a little flirty, and they have good ways of teaching each other some things, with Daryl teaching Isabel about the realism of their situation, and Isabel helping Daryl to see that there's more to life out there in the world, and to help him bond with Laurent. And speaking of Laurent, let's talk about Laurent. I really like Laurent. He's a very engaging and optimistic kid who definitely has a nice personality. He's a very confused kid because he believes in like the things that Isabel believes, but also comes to realise, again, the realism that Daryl is going through in here. And I like the relationship he shared with those characters. Daryl and Laurent having like either a uncle-nephew relationship or father-son relationship, kind of like Joel and Ellie from The Last of Us, and Isabel and Laurent are great because they definitely have more experience with each other, and you can tell that even though Laurent is very like distrustful with Isabel's beliefs, you can still tell he clearly loves Isabel deep down and looks up to her as like kind of a mother figure. And while Laurent can make a few decisions that, in my opinion, like, okay, why did you do that? I understood what he was going through, and the actor, the young actor who portrays him, did a fantastic job. This is definitely one of the best, like, child acting performances in the Walking Dead franchise to me. Now, the supporting characters I thought was really good as well. I like that group of kids that they come across. I like LeFou? I can't remember his name, but his group was very interesting, and like the relationship between like Isabel's friend Sylvie and that boy from LeFou's group I thought was really good. Now, as for the villains, while I don't think they're as memorable as like the ones in Dead City, I think that they're still really good villains. I really like the character of Codron. Codron? I hope that's... I really don't know. I hope that's how I pronounce his name. I'll leave his name in the spot. I'm just going to call him Codron. Codron was a very complex character because you could tell that he has like some bitter anger towards Daryl as he is hired to track him down, but there's more to him because he's not really evil for the sake of being evil. He has layers, and you can tell why he wants to hunt down Daryl so badly. But at the same time, he has a conscience because he wouldn't put anybody else's lives in danger if it means that he can just get Daryl, because he does have a conscience, and I will admit, the way that his character resoluted at the end of the season is very intriguing. I found him to be a very fascinating supporting villain with a complex character arc, and does have a major role in the story. the main villain of this season is Madame Ginette, a woman who's like the head of like this group of people in France that is trying to track down the American, that of course being Daryl, and the boy. And I will say, while again she's not as memorable as like the Croat, I think that she was very engaging as an antagonist, because you can tell that she definitely is like one of those hateable antagonists, because she comes off with like very rubbish excuses for why she's doing what she's doing, because she even says herself that, well, we have to do the hard things in order to like gain people's trusts. But the fact that she would go through with these like very like shocking tasks, like I can't believe she would actually do that. It's a good way of making her an antagonist that you can't help but love to hate. And I think that the actress who portrays her did a fantastic job, and she did come off as a very engaging threat. The cinematography in this show is just marvellous, okay? Absolutely marvellous. I mean, they really got the aesthetic of a apocalyptic, decrepit France brilliantly. The colour palette, it has a little bit of a greyness in the colour palette, and I think that for the type of show that this is, and for the character that is leading the show, I think that it definitely presented itself very well. There's so many shots where I'm like, what kind of budget did they use? I mean, I don't think I've seen The Walking Dead, the main series, use this kind of budget. I mean, maybe they did, but I just can't remember too much, but not to this extent. It looked like a movie, kind of. And I gotta say that I love the way that the show looks, and it really is one of the most high-budget shows in the Walking Dead franchise. And like I said in my Dead City review, it'll only get better from there until we get to, you know what. And because the cinematography is well done and well shot, there's many like moments where the scenes have to look nice, especially when it comes to some of the action sequences, because they definitely well shot the action sequences really goodly in my opinion, and you definitely feel the hits, you definitely feel like pains that the character is going through. And I will admit that a lot of the gun fights, again, it looked really well shot, and it definitely looked the most real. Now, like I said, this show definitely has good cinematography, and it's something compared to the main series, where the main series didn't really have that much. Another thing that this show has over the main series is that it really likes to expand a lot of things, like give it some more meaning, give it some more exploration, and like explore the characters more. Like Daryl, they really explore Daryl a bit more in this series, because we find out that his family had some sort of connection to France without giving too much away. They definitely gave a lot more about what he is like as a character and his backstory, like some parts of his past is well explored. And in terms of like the walkers, they really definitely explored that there are more types of walkers, because Madame Ginette's people is experimenting on walkers, give them like adrenaline to make them go faster. I can't really decide on if that's supposed to be some sort of connection to like the End of World Beyond, no spoilers, but maybe it's something completely different. But I really like how the show goes to extreme lengths to show that every walker is different, especially when it comes to the burners, which, man, those burners looked like painful. Like, I would never want to touch those things. And there are also some incredibly exciting moments that definitely expand the Walking Dead franchise even more. With Dead City, I like Dead City, but I didn't feel like that it had much of a point, at least not in the first season. We might get that more, but it just feels like a side quest. With this one, there actually is a bit more connection in terms of like walker connections, and also it has even more big like, oh, I can't believe that just happened moments that really make you get your giggle and your toes twiddling, because if you're a Walking Dead fan, you're gonna love these moments, especially in the 5th and the 6th episode, with two big surprises. One that people are making theories about, and one that is explored at the end of the final episode. I won't give those two things away, but when you see them, you're gonna like jump in your seat like, oh! And the way that the final episode ended really left like, oh, it leaves you wanting more! That is how you encourage people to come back to another season, which is announced to be coming out this year, by the way, and I'm so excited, especially with the possibility or presenting of like a returning character. Now, I can't say I have too many problems with The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, but I do have a little bit of a few. First of all, much like some other Walking Dead projects, there are a few things that I can't exactly buy, or I think are like, okay, that's a bit bonkers. When I said earlier that there was an opening scene that involved Daryl washing up to France on an upside down boat, I don't have too much of a problem with that scene because, well, they do kind of explore it in the 5th episode, but the fact that he's on an upside down boat, unconscious, and tied to it, that did come off as a little bit cartoony. It's like, imagine if it was one of those like Wile and Coyote cartoons where the coyote is tied to a boat, he drifts off, and then suddenly he's in Australia or something. Yeah, it's one of those things like, oh boy. I mean, it wasn't like what I thought it was going to be, but yeah, it's still like, okay, that's a little bit silly. Although it's kind of funny when you think about it. But also, there are a few things that I feel like they really need to tone down a bit. Like the whole god complex, or like how godly Laurent is considered by many people to be like the beacon of hope. I felt like that they really need to tone that down a bit, because they're kind of like forcing it in your face like, here's the god, the light of hope that the French have, blah 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 blah. Really? You're gonna go Fear the Walking Dead and just like have that be like a case? Yeah, no. Kind of tone it down a little bit. I mean, this is something that another YouTuber had, and I will admit, okay, maybe that is. But also, another thing I can't buy is, without giving too much, there's a character who is potentially leaving France, and this other character is like, well, I know you've got some place to go back to, but don't you think that your true home is here? Like, you're just leaving, you're just abandoning, like, this is something another character did. And I understand that this character grew so close with this character who's leaving, but if the character that's leaving has something to go back to, like a family or something, which is what they are exploring here, I feel like, I'm sorry person who felt a bond with this character, but it's a bit more, like, important that this character goes back to the loved ones they already have. So I feel like, okay, like, I know you grow us a bond, but you're really criticising him for going back to the people that this person cares about. Like, okay, maybe turn it down a bit. So yeah, there were those little small bits and something that I can't buy, kind of like Dead City, even though Dead City was really good. And speaking of that, I will say another problem I had with this series is that, well, it's definitely better than Dead City, but I can't deny how similar the story traits are to Dead City. It's a popular Walking Dead character getting into a different location, a big well-known location, with people coming after them, a main villain sending a bounty hunter after this character, only to find out this bounty hunter has a conscience and is in trouble by the end of the series. And then this character is like free or going somewhere, but still might be hunted down. I feel like this show definitely has those similar traits to Dead City. I know not every Walking Dead spin-off is supposed to be original, but with how like good The Ones Who Live is right now, and how original some of the stuff is in The Ones Who Live, yeah, it is kind of making a big difference in terms of this series. But I still liked it, and I will admit there are a few pacing issues that you do kind of feel a little bored in some scenes. But besides those problems, I will say I had a blast watching The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon. The characters are well done. Daryl is at some of his best in the entire franchise. The cinematography is high budget. They definitely expand a lot of things, and I feel like that this is definitely like one of the things that The Walking Dead needed, especially for the Daryl character. And also, here's another thing that I also find a little weird in terms of like compared to other Walking Dead spin-offs. Think about like the 3 spin-offs that come out after the main show ended. There's The Walking Dead Dead City, The Walking Dead The Ones Who Live, and then there's The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon. Walking Dead Dead City, Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, Walking Dead The Ones Who Live. Do you notice that Daryl's spin-off is the only one where his name is in the title? I mean, it's not too much of a problem because we know that he's definitely the star, but if you really think about it, like, okay, you have these 2 different titles for these Walking Dead shows, but this is the only one that has the character's name, like, what could have been an alternate title? Like, again, I don't have a problem with it, I just think that's a little, like, okay, that's a little strange how this show is the only one that has the character's name in the title. But, again, thought it was a great series. I'm going to give it 4.5 stars out of 5. I think it's a heck of a series to watch, and if you finished the Walking Dead series and you want to see Daryl in new adventures, definitely give this show a watch. But anyway, what do you think of the Walking Dead Daryl Dixon? Do you love it? Do you hate it? And what Walking Dead spin-off do you feel like really expands the Walking Dead universe the most? Let me know in the comment section below. More videos to come, and I'm Daniel, reviewing movies, TV shows, doing videos. Get in, my sweet Lucille. I really love my Lucille. Till then, peace out, man. Watch out for the stick.